Hello and welcome back to a 17Lands data review for Pioneer Masters. I figured I would do one of these for this set. I have drafted it a little bit. I haven't been playing Foundations. To be honest with you, I haven't been playing a ton of Magic lately just because Foundations is not my favorite format of all time. But this came out and it's been good so far. We're going to have less data on it than a normal set, so it's going to be less representative in terms of what you see here. There is also a rotating bonus sheet, so there's some cards you'll see in like the top piece here that don't have a lot of info because they're on the bonus sheet and they're only going to be here for I think it's 2 weeks. I'm actually going to go over those cards later on in the video, but for now, I'm going to start with the deck win rates in Pioneer Masters. One thing to note as well, with this set there is no top user data. I assume that's because they just don't want to waste the resources on it because it's going to be such a small sample. Or maybe there's some other reason. I don't know the team, so I can't comment on that. But we can see from everybody that the format actually so far fairly balanced, color pair wise. We have your best decks are Rakdos, Boros, Izzet, sort of your 3 best. Azorius kind of in that range as well, and then everything else kind of flat with Simic as your worst. Really kind of a return to what Limited has looked like for the past 5 years on average. This is kind of what has been true archetype wise, but yeah, very flat actually. Parallel. Now, obviously, we see that play rates are sort of commensurate with that. Boros is the most played deck in the format by a very, very large margin, basically a factor of 2 to 1. The second most is Azorius. So, literally lapping the field at 2 to 1 and still having one of the highest win rates is definitely something to think about in terms of whether or not that's the best deck. It probably is. It probably is the best deck. Just based on those statistics alone there. But, something to be said about Rakdos probably being a little underrepresented at the moment. But this also indicates to me that you can kind of play anything and make it work. You just kind of got to know what you're doing. Overall win rate 54.8. That's normal, I would say, for sets these days. And that's it. I really don't have a ton to talk about archetype wise. We'll get more into stuff. Like, this doesn't represent the Gates deck, which is a very strong deck and is, as somebody that is not usually a huge fan of when the lands deck is the best deck in the format because of how it polarizes drafts. That is not something I'm super excited about. But let's get into the card data, and we're going to start with the commons, which really is the only. Commons still have a decent representative sample here. We can see the top commons of Dreadbore and Obnix's Cruelty still with a sample of 18,000 and 13,000 games in hand. That's pretty significant. It tells us that what is good and what isn't amongst the commons. We see that there's a lot of red commons here, which is Mark, Goblin, Heel Cutter. We have Gearcrafter, and Rimrock Knight, sort of all these commons, and then also Dreadbore. And then we see some blue commons as well with Liv, Sky Knight, and some of the blue, and a little bit of black. So this is telling you it's kind of a Grixis-y format in terms of commons, and commons are really important in this format. If I had to pick the best common, I do think it's Obnix's Cruelty. It's an instant as opposed to Dreadbore being a sorcery, and it's also 1 color instead of 2. Its Elsa is, for that reason, full 1.7 points lower. That is significant. Interestingly, with Boros being the best deck, you would expect to see more white commons in here, but really there aren't any at all. Heliod's Pilgrim, or I guess Hero of Eroas, is kind of the one. It's the one common. Its Elsa is also really low. If you look at Elsa's, I actually imagine that it's going to be... Yeah, let's look at the ones that actually have values. It's actually here at number 4. This is just being really, really overdrafted. Kind of gives you a state of how overdrafted white is, just in general. We can see that there's 3 white commons in the top in the top 5 here, and none of them are winning a specialty lot. which shows you that white is really being overdrafted, and that's why I have yet to draft white in this format. I haven't drafted it a single time. It just has felt insanely contested for me, and this is a large part of the reason why, is that these commons that are good but not amazing are getting taken at insanely high rates. And we can actually start looking at the white commons here, and I'm going to start by giving him one right. And we'll see that, they actually aren't super impressive. I talked about Boros being the best deck, and that is true, but I think the white commons are not really doing a ton. They should be supplementary pieces. They shouldn't be sort of like your reason to get into the deck. And there's a lot of stuff in here that's just not that exciting. Notably, like all of the Eidolons, like pretty much every single one of the Eidolons is performing badly on 17 lands. This makes sense to me. They're very expensive. This is not a fluke here. But yeah, just a lot of the white stuff is kind of is heroic centric, which makes sense. Like the good white commons, or the commons that you actually want to play, are the heroic ones, or Heliod's Pilgrim, which draws you a card that targets your stuff for heroic stuff. So it is kind of like whatever, but these Alices are just too low for commons of this power level. And now I'm going to move on to blue. Blue actually performing a little bit better. We have Gust of Wind and Folly Archaeologist. Folly Archaeologist performing very well here. I think this is better than it performed in Brothers War. I've been impressed by it. I've liked it quite a bit. I've played it a decent amount in my blue decks. Cloudfin Raptor has been good when I've seen it. I don't know if I would take it where it's getting taken. 576. Maybe a little high. It'd be getting taken a little bit high. But consider, and we're sort of moving into the middling win rates here. Essence Scatter, kind of a surprise, all the way down at 55%. That's actually low for an Essence Scatter variant. If we look at Foundation's Essence Scatter is up in the 57s. I wonder if partially that has to do with it being a common and, whatever. But I think there just is some format issues with it. Treasure Cruise is actually doing well. This I think is better than it did in Cons of Tarkir. Could have to check that, but I think it is doing well in this format compared to what you would potentially expect. Anything that I want to talk about down here? Ingenious Scob actually not doing very well. So this is a card that I have played and probably just should never play. It just isn't what the Prowess deck is about. In a lot of spots, so you'd much rather be doing other things, like just considering or whatever. Like I think you'd rather play this. It's just kind of a threat that scales with the game, and even if you draw this on like turn 6, it's still going to grow a bit, right, over time. So this into this is actually kind of a good curve. You can go like Raptor into Archaeologist, and then you have like a 1/2 flyer, and you have a 2-drop that blocks on the ground really well. So it's kind of a nice little engine, and then you have Gust of Wind. Like Cloudfin Raptor plus Gust of Wind is actually kind of like the combo, right? Like you get to do this for 2 mana and this for 1. That's kind of what you want to be doing with the blue cards. On to black, Obnix's Cruelty, obviously the best black common by a considerable margin. Undead Butler coming in at second here with Basilica Creature, a couple of 2-drops that are reasonable. The Husk, actually, this is like shockingly high for this card. 3 mana 2/2. Like this has been printed. Versions of this have been printed many times, and they basically never do this well. This is about as well as I've ever seen it do. So that's kind of something to think about. Like this actually is kind of a real playable card in black in this format. Similarly, Supernatural Stamina, again, for similar reasons with the Nantuko Husk, the sack black deck is kind of a thing that actually is reasonable. Once again, the Eidolon not doing very well. All the Eidolons not doing very well. There are some real bad ones in black. This is especially bad. But yeah, all of the bestow stuff is just kind of something you should stay away from largely because it's too expensive, and you just don't want to be spending all that mana to just get blown out. But like, not blown out, but like you kind of are getting blown out still because you're spending 7 mana, or 6 mana, or 5 mana, or whatever. And if your opponent removes the thing, you're not getting the, like, you're getting a 1/1 essentially, so you're overpaying. Like, it's still kind of a blowout. Alright, that's it for black. On to red, probably the best color. I mean, we can see at common, like, look at this depth. Like, this is so much deeper than any other color. We have Witch's Mark as your best red common by Game and Hammond Rate. Very interesting to think about. You have Heel Cutter, a card that I thought was, like, not good, but I guess I'm just wrong. It has dash for 2 and a red. I don't know. I'm still not sure about this card. It's Elsa's 667. I guess I better start believing. Like, this is like a, you know, you just kind of got to believe in the stats here. I would not have thought this card would be good if you put it in front of me, but I suppose that it is. Suppose it gets there. I think part of it is that you can target your own heroic stuff, and then that's like repeatable heroic targeting, which is really nice. This guy, I mean, in this environment, like the sack deck, like the Rakdos and the red white both really like this guy. He's been good. Rimrock Knight is just a very undervalued card. I've seen this like wheel a couple of times. It actually has the lowest Elsa on the list here, other than the Wild Slash, which I assume is the actual lowest. But interestingly, red of this thing is reasonable. Yeah, red just has a lot of like commons that you can like put in your deck and play. I want to actually check. I don't think there's top user data. Yeah, there isn't. There's just no top user data for the set. But yeah, just a bunch of playable stuff. Even Bountylands Ranger, I've actually found this card. I've had spots where this card's been like really good for me as a 2-drop. I would say Boulder Savo is kind of a trap, but even that is like kind of playable. Once again, evoke creature not very good. Are these? I wonder if these are in there just to come up on the on this here. Hold on. Can I actually find my window? Yeah, it's actually here. Okay, so I can show here. So there's the so this is the first bonus sheet. I'll go back to that later. Okay, and then on to green, which, you know, green kind of normal. Audacity's been good for me. The Rhino's been good for me. I do find that green, specifically with like red green, like heroic but not heroic. Like this thing, drawing you a bunch of cards with like Audacity and making your stuff big and having trample is kind of like a thing. Is, at least for me, has been kind of decent. But yeah, green is just kind of providing some large dudes. That's what it does. Nothing really exciting about green. You can play green, but it's not, there's nothing super exciting about it. Courier's Briefcase is one of your best green cards. I don't really know what to say about that. District Guide obviously makes sense to me. Just draws a card. And that is good. Is there any multicolor commons? There are plenty of multicolor commons. We have Dreadbore. So there's actually a cycle of these. And they're all pretty playable. I'm kind of shocked that this is win rates is so low, but actually I'm not that shocked. Yeah, all these are decent. Sky Knight and Dreadbore are the two best. Dreadbore is just really efficient removal in this set. There are decks that just kind of own you by going super wide with like flyers, but you know, against most decks, Dreadbore is just gonna kind of cook. You know, any colorless things that matter. Pilgrim's Eye, yep, Pilgrim's Eye is still a good card, and then a bunch of gates that have reasonable rights. And here's Scion of Ugin. You don't really want to be playing either of these. They're okay. Like I have played some Halo Scarabs. They're not great. They do something sometimes. Alright, on to the uncommons. And we see that this is the first thing that we want to talk about with the Gates deck. Gate Colossus, highest winning uncommon. Obviously not like so great in your opener as we can see here. You know, so probably not quite as good as Bloodtithe Harvester in terms of actual raw strength. Bloodtithe Harvester is a better card than Gate Colossus, but The fact that Gate Colossus is even here highlights that the Gates deck is very strong. You actually see there's 3 Gate cards in the top 4 here. Now they're all going to be game in hand win rate preferable because they're slower cards, and we have Blood Tithe Harvester, which is just an absolute mammoth opening hand win rate here of 63%. Ultimate price. Twin-Bound Lich, yeah, no, not a surprise here. A couple of really strong blue-black uncommons. You can actually do blue-black control, make it work. And that is what I want to talk about. I mean, so it used to be like the blue-black signposts, the red-white signposts. This thing. Not notable lack of like green really being here, except for Gatebreaker Ram. Gatebreaker Ram is very strong, but like notable lack of other green cards in the top uncommons, which is actually not how green usually functions. Like if we look at green here, we'll see that there really isn't, like Carl Harpooner is the second best, but green usually is not how this works. Green usually tends to do better at uncommon and not as well at common, but in this set it is more normal at common and less good at uncommon. Clear Shot notably not performing well. 56% here is very low for Clear Shot. It's possible that people have finally caught on to how good it is, and so it's fallen a bit, but I do think Clear Shot, its best days have come and gone finally after many years of being reprinted. Is there anything else I want to talk about here? No, I mean this card's really bad, don't play it. It says hexproof on it, but don't play it. Yeah, that's all for now at green. I don't really have anything else to say about it for the moment. And I guess we can start with the. We'll just keep going with white then. And again, if we look at, I want to look at the alces again, because we can see that white has all these like really low alces, and it's just like the cards that don't win. And this is a problem because it means that white's really hard to get into. I wonder if the format will self-correct or not, because we're in this spot where, right, so Boros is the best deck, and white is obviously half of the colors in Boros, but people are very clearly overvaluing the white cards in Boros. Like they're just taking them way too high. The red cards are what's driving the bus, and the white cards are just kind of there, you know? And so that, to me, that says that there has to be some, correction that's going to happen at some point in terms of like what's going to happen. Like this, I mean, now this card I thought would be good, and it is just not good at all. When I like read it, I was like, oh, you're doing the thing, but it was like, no, you just don't want to do that. I'm still kind of confused about why this card is like not good. I feel like this card should be good. Like white black sack, I don't know. I guess we can check its numbers in white black. We can actually just do that. But is it actually here? Here it is. Still not good. Don't know what to tell you. Strange. Card is just bad. But yeah, Mentor of the Meek is definitely not something you want to be doing in this format. It's probably not something you really ever want to be doing in any format. If you're like trying to be, there are spots where it could come up, but to me it would be like a very rare situation. Like you won't want to build your deck around this. If you get it late, you could do it, but people are taking it 361, and it just is not a reasonable thing to do, especially given that there's a shock in the format. On to blue, and once again, sort of like pretty decent. Guild Summit here, again showing the gates. The gates deck is real. It's very real. This card is really bad in your opener. You know what's interesting is like the gate stuff is like the first mechanic that I'm really like, wow, you actually do need to start looking at not just game in hand here, because like this card, you will just lose games to having this like 3 of these level of cards in your opener, and you will just die. I don't know how this card is doing well. I guess it's because Alsa's 718. And by well, I mean like kind of above average, but like it's playable. Quicken in here. Illusory Angel. Yeah, I bet you'll like them. There's actually several unplayable uncommons in blue that you'll see late in packs. for sure. Black, ultimate price, just a removal spell. Okay. Card's pretty good, suppose. Path, gate stuff, Fellstinger. So Cutthroat kind of holding its own, although probably overdrafted. It is overdrafted a bit, I think. Is anything interesting here? Dreadhound's doing surprisingly bad. Dreadhound is actually all the way down here, which is just kind of surprising to me because it's been good for me, but also because like it was really good in Midnight Hunt. In this format, I know it's not as focused on that kind of thing as Midnight Hunt, but I would have still expected Dreadhound to be somewhat decent. Okay, on to red. Any surprises here? Swift Spear. This is actually kind of a surprising place for Swift Spear to be. It's very high. Shows that the aggro decks really do work. And again, just kind of just showing that red's the best color here. Like, look at these win rates, like opening hand as well. Red really performing, and you definitely want to be drafting red cards in your deck. That is definitely the color you want to be in most at the moment. Anything that's like super surprising? No, nothing like super surprising down here. This is like really low, but like obviously, like it's a 5-mana 3/3. Of course it's low. We looked at green already. Multicolor stuff. We'll talk about the signpost. Blood Death Harvester is the best, the gold standard. Maybe the two blue-black ones, the two red-white ones. Some other stuff going on here. Gore-Clan Rampager's been really good for me. This card is like surprisingly not bad, although again taken really high. So Chaser Mage is like fine. It's a fine 2-drop. It goes really late. It's exactly what you want. Loxodon Smiter. Just a 3-mana 4/4, no text. Kind of doing like sort of okay-ish. The draw card ones aren't good. Next Weaver's bad. Yeah, not a surprise. And I think these are coming soon. Yeah, we're going to see these soon. Let's actually take a look. I think. Hold on. Spells. So the spells package, which is coming in the next wave, well, I'll look at in a moment. I do want to look back at the Planeswalker one. So like all the like Hushwind Griffin, whatever. There's a bunch of stuff that's going to rotate. So I'll talk about what things are getting lost. Okay, and we'll do the hold on, colorless. There's some Gate Colossus. We talked about Rogue's Passage. What the hell? What the heck is going on with Rogue's Passage? That's a lot of games played. That's not a ton though. It's 1,300. That is really high though for even with 1,300 games, because this card was unplayable last set. I'm gonna remain skeptical on Rogue's Passage. No data for Crackdown Construct, sad. Okay, and I will look quickly at the rare and mythics. Chromantic Core, very surprising. Actually, like I'm surprised. It's just good. You know, if you put out all these cards in the text, it is worth playing 5 colors to put Chromantic Core in your deck. Again, small sample sizes here. Is what it is. It can't beat Elspeth, fine. P and K, yep, that card's busted. Dragonlord Tarka, yep. All these cards you would expect. Chandra, actually, you know, I wouldn't necessarily have expected. Yep. Lots of good cards here. Shout out Chain to the Rocks. It's literally a Boros card. And it's 61%. I mean, Swords to Plowshares is good. Red-White Swords to Plowshares is a good card. Turns out. Obnixless. We have JVP in here. We have Garrick. Whisperwood Elemental I didn't know was in this set. Whip of Erebos. Wow, that's... surprisingly high. What was Whip of Erebos' win rate in Theros? Hold on. I actually don't know if we have. I don't think we have it because it's a remastered set. Ashiok, baby. Too good for the vintage cube. Only 59% are here, though. Very fun to play with, very annoying to play against. For sure. We have lots of rares that are relevant in this set. But, as we're about to see, some of them are going to rotate. So that concludes the 17 lands part of the review. Kind of short and sweet. It kind of went over a bunch of stuff. There's not a ton to go over because it's small sample sizes. The format is relatively new. I'm going to quickly go look over all of the cards that are going to get rotated out. So until the 24th, we have this set of cards. So, I mean, obviously the Mythics are here. Hushwing Gryff is a card that matters. And White's not really losing anything. It's maybe Sungrace Pegasus is kind of a thing. Like, yes, obviously the Mythic rares are relevant, but not super relevant. Blue also loses nothing with rotation. Clutch of Currents is fine. It's a good playable card, but it's not a huge deal. This is unplayable. This is unplayable. Two mythic rares that you'll see sometimes, but I mean this card's not even good. Jace Memory Adept I can't imagine is even good. Actually, I can just look this up. Yeah, actually it's not doing so bad. It's better than I would have expected. I guess Mill 10 is actually a thing in limited. This one, I don't want to read all that. Black is actively getting better by losing Cavern Lampad. Liliana's, or basically any card that's Liliana on it generally is good. This card is not good though. Will Chase isn't good. Losing the Ruinous Path is kind of a thing for black. It's not a huge deal. Search for Swamp. This is maybe... Oh wait, this is actually... This is bad. Hold on. Yeah. So that's bad. Liliana Vess is also not great. It's fine, but not great. Oh, red's losing Heel Cutter. That's... Heel Cutter and Thopter Engineer for red. That's actually really bad. Those are big hits to red. Red's actually going to get considerably hurt by the rotation. Green loses not literal nothing, so happy for green. Ashiok goes. The Chainville goes. So yeah, actually, I think that limited's actually going to get considerably better in the second week if we look at spells. So cards that are actually playable. Maybe. Okay, it's not going to get that much better. Reprisal is not good. No. This actually is like maybe playable. No. We had this in we've seen this before, but it's not going to be as relevant in this format. Actually, maybe it is. Target black creature, no. This is going to be good. I don't know, it's double black. Mizzium Mortars. Mizzium Mortars is a house. It isn't a mythic though. Red's definitely going to get worse for sure. There's not a whole lot in these slots here. These are going to be more interesting. The multicolored stuff. I don't think you can play Wear or Tear. Turn Burn you're going to be able to play. Yeah, I think I'll do a separate video maybe when we're rotating here to talk about this. But that's it. That's it for the 17 lands data review and a little bit of talking about the rotation pieces. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.